Hello everyone, my name is Justin Kenner with AIAA, American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics at the University of Central Florida. This is day 2 in our 4-part Creo series. This will cover the Creo 3.0 program, also could apply to anything from 2.0, 1.0, and below. Before this video, we actually had a first video where we went through some of the basic capabilities of Creo, also how to make basic sketches and how to dimension. Before watching this video and attempting any of the parts I have for you today, I highly advise that either you understand that material or you review the video. Today, we're going to be speaking about basic three-dimensional features of Creo. Last time it was two-dimensional, now we're moving to three-dimensional. First thing we'll talk about is extrudes and extrude cuts. Really basic information. We'll move on to revolve and revolve cuts, which are very useful in modeling in general. We'll learn how to apply rounds and chamfers. We'll talk about sweeps. You can have two different types of sweeps. You can have a standard sweep along the line, but you can also have a swept blend. After that, we'll talk about just blends in general, and these will make a lot more sense when we're going through them, I believe. And finally, we'll show you how to apply a shell. Very useful feature if you're trying to create a part with a certain wall thickness, which is actually what we'll be doing today. So before we begin, if you could please go to our website. The website is AIAA UCF.com. If you go under Workshops, Creo Workshops, click on Creo Workshops, and you'll arrive at this screen here or something similar to it. Scroll down, and under day 2, you'll see workshop files. Go ahead and download the 2 PDF files. That's what you'll need for today. I've also included the actual parts themselves in case you want them for reference. So, go ahead, pause the video, download those, and I'll see you back here. Okay, now that you've downloaded those files, it's going to look just like this. We have 2 files today. We have Workshop 2, 1. This is going to be a part that will help you understand a lot to do with extrudes, the chamfers, and also the shell feature. It's an interesting part, just a kind of an abstract thing, and it uses a good amount of skills that I will be teaching you. The second workshop part is right here. Here you can obviously see we're going to be using the blend feature. In addition, if you look on the inside, there's a cut inside the top, so we'll be using revolve. And this actually demonstrates a very important yet annoying feature of Creo, which is trying to make a blend between an object with 4 sides to an object with 1 side. So I'll actually show you how to do this. It's a very useful tool in Creo. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and open Creo. Of course, I have my settings changed here. I showed you initially how to change the settings. I'll go ahead and switch back to what you're more familiar with. They don't confuse anyone here. So again, what I did was File and Options like we did before. And let's take System Colors and change it from Custom back to Default. I just like it blue. It's a lot easier to see, especially if you're looking at it for a long period of time. Okay, so before we get started on those parts, I'll just give you the basics here. So we're going to go ahead and create a new part, so click New. We're going to have part. We can name this anything you want. Let's call it a workshop example. Just something we have, and click OK. As always, we get our three-dimensional plane. We have front plane, top, and right. As always, when you're making parts, it's important to consider how you're looking at them. So if you want to produce a part using the top view, let's say the top of a box, and you dimension the top of the box, you want to use the top plane. But for this example, we're just going to use any plane. Now I'll show you there's 2 ways of creating an extruded part. They're both correct, but one way is better than the other. So I'll show you both. We're going to start, the first way is to create a sketch. So you come up here, and click Sketch. It's going to ask us for a plane. We could choose any plane. We'll go ahead and use the top plane. Or excuse me, that's the right plane, sorry. Right plane, you'll see it in the box as a reference, and press Sketch. Now to go normal to that plane, another important feature right here, Sketch View. If you click Sketch View, now you'll be normal to the plane. It's kind of an annoying feature. At Lockheed they actually have it go automatically, which is really nice. Then zoom in, as always, because it's always some ridiculously large scale, which is annoying. And we'll go ahead and we'll just make a basic shape. We'll go ahead and make a rectangle. Now, of course, I showed you before, under rectangle, you could click the rectangle, or you can go to the drop down. You get different options, a slanted rectangle, center rectangle. They're all very useful. We'll go ahead and use the center rectangle. So click the center rectangle, you see the little X. Take that to the origin, very important that that hits the origin. Left click, and drag that out. Let's go ahead and try and get the constraint on this. So when you're moving around, try and move it to a point where you can see the two perpendicular symbols near the center of the box. Once you get those, left click, come outside, and center click once. So now you can see our dimensions. Because we set these as perpendicular, which is one of the constraints we discussed prior, it actually allows me to dimension one side and have it equal to the other. So go ahead and make this something simple, like 5 inches. Okay, now that we have our sketch, if you if you click the center wheel button and move off to the side, you can see it's a simple sketch. We're happy with it, so we're going to come up to the top and click OK. As you can see on the left side, we have our sketch. Now we're going to extrude that sketch. To extrude, come up to the shapes and click on extrude. Okay. You can see now that we are extruding a shape, and it's obviously coming upwards. There are a few options I'd like to show to you over here, very useful options, and they're all up here in this left corner. This information controls how it's extruded, how far it's extruded, and a few different options, including how to cut material or extrude material. So, starting with the basics, we're extruding towards the top. If I wanted to extrude, let's say in the opposite direction, I would come to the left of the numbers. This is actually the distance you're extruding, and I would change direction. So now you can see clicking once changes the direction of the bottom, clicking again comes to the top. If I wanted to extrude to a certain distance, I can either click and hold that white square and drag it, or I can come up to the left in the box and type the exact distance I would like to use, let's say 5 inches. A reminder for us with ProWeigh, it's very nice, it'll actually do basic math. So let's say I wanted this to be 5.5 inches. Well, I can actually just type 11 divided by 2 and get 5.5. You can imagine where that'd be very useful. So, moving over, and these options will be more obvious when we work into the actual part. This will control how you're extruding. So, if we click the drop down, we have a few different options. The first one is extrude to a specific depth. So obviously we're giving it a distance of 5.5, so it's extruding to 5.5. The second option, we'll go ahead and click that to show how it works, will actually extrude in both directions from the plane. So if we click that, you now see that the object is extruded 5.5 inches, but equal distance on two sides of the plane. So it's really extruded half of that distance on either side of the plane. Very useful. The last one, not very applicable here, but you will see a demonstration of it, is actually to extrude to a certain surface. So with this, if you had a feature already modeled, and let's say you had another feature off, maybe up to the left, you can actually extrude it and tell it to stop at the surface of the first feature. Don't worry, we're actually going to demonstrate this one. So we'll go ahead, just extrude to a distance. We want 5.5, and we click the check mark. And there you go. You've created your first extrude. Now, extrude cut is actually just as easy as an extrude. In SOLIDWORKS, you would actually have to click a different button. They have an extrude cut and extrude button, but here it's all an extrude. So click extrude, and it's going to ask for a placement. For placement, we can choose any surface or plane. In this case, we'll choose the top surface. So click the top surface, and we're going to go normal to that top surface, clicking the sketch view, and now we're ready to sketch. So let's go ahead and extrude cut a circle all the way through this object. So to create the circle, come up under sketching to circle and point. Of course, you could always go to the drop down and see there's a lot more options, all very useful. We're just going to use the circle and point, and we're going to choose the center of the square. Left click once, drag out, left click again, come off to the side, and center click. It's hard to see. Here's the dimension. We'll go ahead and set this as 3. Okay, so we're happy with our sketch. We're going to go ahead and extrude cut this. To extrude cut, go ahead and click OK. And you can see now it's still extruding. So to switch it to cut, you'll come up to the left over where the cut is and click Remove Material. Now it's removing material, but in the opposite direction of which we'd like to remove material. So switch direction, and you'll see now we start extruding material. Now we're looking for this to go completely through the object, so we're going to come back up to the left, and now you can see we actually have some other options. Extrude cut has more options. So I'll show you 2 different ways we can extrude completely through this object. Actually 3 ways. First one, very simple, is just change the number to something larger than our distance. It was 5.5, so if I press 6, it's going to go straight through. Now, what you'll find is if you try to extrude something on the back of this object after you've done this, it's actually automatically going to take that material out. If that's not what you're looking for, there's 2 other options we can use. First option would be extrude up to next surface. By clicking that, you'll see again it goes through the object, but it will stop at this surface. So anything past this surface, this extrude cut will not affect. If you come back up to the options, and we come down to the very bottom, you'll see extrude to a selected point or curve. If we click that, now we can specify specifically what surface. So if there is a original surface and a second surface past that, I could specify the second surface. Very useful. So in this case, we only have one surface. So if we click that one surface, it will extrude through as we wished. So once we're happy, go ahead and click check mark. Of course, if you fall behind at all during this video, please be sure to pause, go back, and continue to follow through. Okay, so I've shown you the first way of extruding, but there's actually a second more useful way. Which actually, I think I showed it to you by accident, but see, you'll see it here. The first way I did with a sketch and then an extrude, and you'll actually see that it created 2 features in the tree on the left. The second time, I completely forgot to let you know I was doing it. I actually just clicked the extrude button and then started making my sketch. So basically, the difference between the two is this. When I click the extrude button, it's automatically going to say, hey, I need a sketch. So it's going to prompt you to create a sketch. If we go to the model tree off to the left and click the arrow next to extrude to, you'll actually see section 1 is that sketch. Now, the perk with using the extrude versus a sketch then extrude is that you actually have less features in your feature tree. You'll find out in later parts as things get more complicated, you'd like to reduce the number of features, make it easier to read and understand. So having this one sketch here, while it doesn't look bad now, after having 10 or 15 of these, you can imagine it's going to get kind of confusing. You'll have a long list that's really unnecessary. Okay, So we'll go ahead and move on from here. I guess while I'm here, I'll show you really quickly how to make the rounds and the chamfers. So these are very important features, especially in engineering design, as you learn from your solid mechanics and also materials classes, that sharp corners increase the total strength of a force and can have the effect of propagating a crack. I know at Lockheed Martin, they tell us all the time, make sure you round your corners. It really puts us in a lot of trouble when you have these sharp corners, especially on parts that have a large force applied to them or under high amount of stress. Okay, let me close the browser there so that doesn't come up. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put the two options on there. First, we'll start with the round. So if we come up to the left, we see round. Click round once, and it will be prompting us for sets. Basically, it's asking us for what edges we'd like to use. Let's go ahead and round the vertical edges. So we came across, clicked on that first vertical edge, you'll see it turn green, and click it once. You'll see off to the right, it's going to prompt us for our radius of curvature. You'll also get that up here on the left. Doesn't matter where you change it. Let's go ahead and just make it 0.5. Okay, so there's two ways to proceed from here. Both are useful, and I'll explain both of them to you. Way number one. If we wanted the following radius to be equal and change with the original, basically, if I change the size of the first radius, I would like the second radius to change with it. What I would do is hold Control while clicking the next edge. If I wanted them to act independently of each other, where I could change them to different radius at different times, I would just select it without pressing Control. So let me go ahead and show that to you. So if I just click on the next edge, you'll see it's going to prompt me for a size again. So I can change this. Maybe I want it to be 0.75. You'll see that now I've changed this edge to 0.75, but this edge did not change. It's still 0.5. I'll show you exactly what happened here. So if you come up to the left under Sets, you'll see it gives us a list. Each one of these sets is a collection of features. So when I hold Control, I'm just adding to an individual set. But since I didn't hold Control, I created two sets. See, one is the original, and two is the new one, which allows me to have different radius, 0.5, and 0.75 for the second. So it really comes down to what you're interested in. In this case, I'd like them all to be the same. So what we're going to do is we'll come up to the left and right-click over here on Sets, and let's delete the second set. Now we're going to hold Control and select all of our edges. So I held Control, I let it go, move across, hold Control, click the next edge, let it go, move across, hold Control, click the last edge. Now you can see it's referenced only those edges and it's all in one set. So if I change this value up here to, let's say, 1, you can see it's changed all of them at the same time. If we hit the check mark, that'll complete our round. Now you can see the part has rounds on it. So in addition to having a single round feature, you could have also clicked round, created the feature on the first part, clicked the check mark, and then created the feature on the next part, check mark all the way across. All that would do is just increase the number of rounds on the left. Depending on what your circumstances are, that could be useful. I advise trying to make everything at the same time. It makes it a lot easier. Okay, we'll go ahead and show you the chamfer feature now. Chamfer is pretty important in design on lead-ins. So if you can imagine, maybe this is a block with a threaded hole in it, and I have a screw going in through the top. Trying to put that screw in with these sharp corners, there's a high probability that it would get caught on one, it would go in at an angle and become jammed. The easiest way to get past this is to add a small chamfer. It's called a lead-in chamfer. So to create a chamfer, we're going to come up to a similar place where the round was. You'll see it's called engineering. I didn't even notice that till now. It's called chamfer. Click chamfer this time, and we're going to go ahead and choose the edge on the top part of the circle. So click once. Obviously this value is a little big, so we're going to go ahead and make that 0.5. There we go. Of course, there's more options. Pro E is wonderful with options. You can create this chamfer in a variety of ways. If we come up to the left, you'll see the standard option is XD, which is saying the size of the chamfer is whatever this value as a equal rectangle, a triangle. So it goes across by 0.5 and down by 0.5. If we wanted to, let's say, provide an angle and a distance, I went ahead and just clicked on angle and distance, and you'll see now I have the option of changing it. So if I wanted this to be, for whatever reason, 50 degrees, I typed 50, click the enter button, you'll see it changed slightly. It's hard to see. I'll go ahead and change it back to 45. You'll see it change again. And the distance is the distance along the length now. It's no longer the distance horizontally or vertically. We can come back across. We can use 45, it's just going to specify 45 and give a distance. We can even give two distances, so we can give it 0.5 by, let's say, 1, which would be the same thing as cutting the angle in half. We'll go ahead and leave it to distance by distance. And you might question why there's so many options, but when it comes to drawings, which you'll find out in the, that would be the last section, it'll be very useful to understand the differences and advantages to each of those. Go ahead, click the check mark. And now you've got your lead-in chamfer on a part. So at this point, we've covered extrudes, revolves, revolve cut, rounds, and chamfers. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the two parts I gave you on the PDFs from the website. I actually have them printed out just to remind you what they look like. They are these two parts here. I advise you either printing them out, or if you have a second monitor, just put it on your second monitor so you can reference them. We're going to start with this feature here, and then we'll move on to the second one. So we're going to start doing this here. So I'll go ahead and lower this. I have this actually sketched out in front of me, so I won't be referencing that drawing. Maybe I'll go back once in a while to show it to you. Let's go ahead and just save this, so you have it to the desktop. And click OK. And now you've saved a part. We're going to go ahead now and create a new part. So come up to the left, right here, click New Part. We're going to call this one Workshop 2 lower dash 1. So it's Workshop 2 Part 1. Reminder that no spaces allowed. It will not allow you to name a part with a space. We have part selected, which is great, and click OK. So now we have a brand new reference frame here. So looking at that part, the way I want to tackle this is we're going to go ahead and create that base portion first, and then we'll come in and create the circular portion on top. So if I look at this, there's two ways to do it. I can create the shape using that bottom sketch there and just have the whole thing extrude at once and have it there. Or I can do it in two parts, one extrude, one extrude cut. I'll go ahead and use the second just to give you some more practice. So we're going to make the box first, and then we're going to extrude out the edge we don't need. So let's go ahead, and we're going to click Extrude. Remember, you could have sketched and then extrude it, but we're going to click Extrude. You're going to see it's going to prompt us for a sketch location. Let's go ahead and select the top plane. Actually, I'm going to come over to the left and make sure I click it. Last time I clicked the one it looked like it was the top plane. It wasn't really. In this case, it actually does show us the top plane. So, top plane, normal to sketch. This thing kills me. I wish it would just go right to it. And we're going to go ahead and create that rectangle. We're going to take that center with a point, come over to the center, scroll in just a little bit so it's not overly scaled up. Click once. This is a 5x5, so we're going to go ahead and try and grab that relationship, that tangent relationship that you see there. And click left click off to the right and center click. You see we have one dimension, both sides are the same length, and that dimension is going to be 5 inches. Okay, So we have our sketch. We're going to go ahead and extrude that sketch by clicking the OK. If we come off to the side, click the center button and scroll off to the side, you can see the distance. We'll go ahead and make that distance 5 as per our engineering drawing, and click OK. And you can see here we have our flat portion. Next, we're going to go ahead and make that cut. To make the cut, again, same button, click the extrude button, go ahead and click on that top surface. And go normal to the top surface. Let's go ahead and sketch out that corner. Now, there's different ways as well to do this. The way I would see doing it is trying to grab this corner up here on the top right, drag it across and down, and get the size of the shape by doing 5 minus 3.5, so 2.5. You could also make a shape that comes from here over and kind of just draw this shape out as well. I'm going to show you how to do the first way just because it shows you another very useful tool in Creo. So if we come over to rectangle, we're going to want to change to a corner rectangle this time, so go ahead and click the down arrow and click corner rectangle. Now, what we want to do is we'd like to take this corner and drag in from there, but as you can see, it doesn't really stick to the corner. It'll stick to the axes and it'll stick to the origin, but not the corner. The reason for this is in Pro E, when you start a sketch, it only gives you certain references. And to show you what those are, we're going to hit escape once. It'll cancel us out of the tool. We're going to go over and up to the left under setup, up here, and click references. Basically, this is going to show what Creo will allow you to sketch from. As a default, it chooses the 2 axes in your sketch. In this case, that would be the right plane and the front plane, which makes sense considering we're sketching on the top plane, or not the top plane, but the top surface. So if we wanted to reference that corner, what we do is, if this is not already clicked in, click this once, come over, find the corner, you'll see it turns green, it's hard to tell. It says surface, click once, and now you see we've referenced that surface. And find the other surface, click that surface as well. Once you've done that, you see the 2 surfaces there. Now you can see 2 dotted lines, just like the others. Click close. So now, if we go ahead and make that corner rectangle again, you can see we can actually grab the corner, which is exactly what we'd like to do. So, left click, drag that out. Again, try and grab that length relationship to make everything equal, since we have the same size on either corner, and center click once. Drag that dimension up. This distance is going to be 2.5. You can also double click it and type 5 minus 3.5. Excuse me, 1.5. Sorry, not 2.5. 1.5. Same idea. Really useful tool. And click OK. Come off to the side. You can see what we're doing here. Extrude cut by switching the direction. And it's already known to cut, which is wonderful. And we'll go ahead and just use this tool here. I didn't explain this before. This is no, not that one. Yes, it extrude through all surfaces. So you click this one, anything you put there, it'll extrude through. We don't have anything there anyway, so it doesn't matter to us. Once we're happy with it, click the check mark. So we have our first portion of the feature right there. So if we look at the bottom side, this is what it looks like. Now we're going to go ahead and create that circular feature that comes off at now it's 135 from the top, but that's really 45 from any vertical line there. Okay, so to create this, we have a few different, and there's always options, there's always ways to do this. Let me go ahead and show you, I'll show you the easiest way I can think of, and there's more ways and I'll explain them afterwards. So to create that feature, we're going to need 3 things. 1, we're going to need an axis. We're going to need an axis that comes through the object this way. That helps us pivot our plane that we're going to be drawing this on. And that'll make sense when we start working with it. 2, we're going to need to create that plane. And then 3, we're going to have to offset the plane, since it gives us a specific distance at which this feature intersects our part. So to create a plane, there's two ways to do it. The easiest way is to first create the axis for the plane. So if you can imagine, if I want to create a plane at an angle, I would need some sort of axis. I can't just say this edge and it's some weird distance from it. That doesn't really make much of a sense. So we'll go ahead and create an axis. That's up here in the top left. Click that once. Now it's going to ask us for a reference. The reference is basically the normal to that axis. In this case, we're going to go ahead and create that on this surface here. So click once, and you see it's now referenced the surface. Now, if you look very carefully, you'll see those two little, they look like ears of some sort in a center square. This is actually our axis right there. Now, it's just randomly placed on that surface and run through the part, as you can see from the side. To actually place that axis in a specific location, we use something called offset references. So if you click offset, below offset references, just click that item. Now you see it says select item. So now we're going to select two surfaces which we'd like to dimension this axis from. To do this, we're going to have to hold control while we're selecting the surfaces. So hold control. We're going to click the left surface and the bottom surface. Now, look off here to the right, you see we have two surfaces selected. It has two distances corresponding to the distance from either one of those surfaces. Here's one and there's two. So, looking at our drawing, the center axis of the circle runs directly through the center of the part at a 45-degree angle. So, we want the axis to be halfway from the bottom and halfway from the front. So, double click on the dimension. We're going to say 5/2, so it gives 2.5. We're going to do the same for the vertical direction. Set that to 2.5 and click enter. Now you can see our axis runs through the center of this block. So now that we're happy, click OK. Now you can see we have our planes, our right plane, our top plane, our front plane. But now we have down here, if you look at the model chart on the left, this axis. So now I have what I need to create the plane that's going to set the direction for this object. I'm going to go ahead up to the top, under Datums, and click Plane right here. Click that once. Now it's going to ask for references. For the references, we're going to need two things. Obviously the axis, that's going to give it what it rotates on, and then a surface to choose an angle at which it locates from. So the first thing I want to do is select the axis. You can do that in two ways. You can kind of come over and find it in the part. I find sometimes that can get a little complicated when you have a lot of other planes and other things that distract you. So alternatively, you can come over to the left and find a lower -1, which is what we created. You can see it's already assumed it's at some angle. Now it doesn't know what angle, it just knows that it's an angle. So if we hold control and click the top surface, we now have our second reference. And you can see on the right that we have the axis. It runs through the axis, which is what we like. And then surface, it's offset from that surface. So if we come down, you'll see that it has a rotation. Now, you can have an offset distance, but in this case, having chosen axis and a surface, it's going to give us a rotation. 45 is exactly what we wanted. Just to show you what happens if we change that 45 to, let's say, 90, it goes vertical. Change it to 70, and we'll get some other angle. But we're going to go ahead and leave it at 45 because that's what's requested in the engineering sketch. Once we're happy, go ahead and click OK. Alright, so now you see we have our plane right there. Conveniently, that plane intersects the edge, the top, and the bottom edge of the sketch. Obviously, it's 45 degrees. And this is quite useful because if you look at our engineering sketch, you'll see that our feature starts exactly 5 inches at a 45-degree angle from the top right corner. So what I can do is I can create a second plane at a distance of 5 inches from the first plane, and extrude down towards the part. And let me show you what this looks like. So come up to the left and click plane, and we're going to find that plane we just created. You can find it in the sketch. You can see it's kind of hard to click it here, so I can actually come over to the left, find datum 1, click that. Now you can see it's offset, but now it translates. So 0 placed exactly on the original sketch. We're going to go ahead and translate that by 5 inches per our engineering drawing. You can see it's placed it. Something else to note here, and it's very useful as well, you can see this little arrow up in the top left. I haven't really spoke about this. This is basically setting the normal direction of this plane. So if I create a sketch on this plane that we're creating, and I try to extrude it, the default direction is going to be up and to the left. It's going to come out of the plane. If I wanted it to go the opposite direction, which in our case we actually do, you can click that arrow once and flip it to down. And you'll see now, when we go to create that extrude, it's actually going to extrude inwards, which is what we want. So you can see we have our 5 inches. It's a plane 5 inches away, exactly like our engineering drawing. We're happy. Click OK. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and make that circular feature. The way we're going to make it is we're going to draw that circular feature on the plane we've created, and we're going to extrude it to surface. So that's one of the features, one of the options I told you with extrude features you can use and extrude it to that surface. Let's go ahead and do that. Click extrude, and that's the shapes menu. It's going to ask us for placement. Go ahead and click that offset plane and go normal to the plane. Okay, so you can see here's our center on that plane, which conveniently locates where we need to start our sketch. Actually, excuse me, here's no, this isn't just a waypoint. This is what we want here. This is the center. Go ahead and click the circle tool under sketch. Come down and go to that origin. You can see we can't click it, so we're going to have to go ahead and reference that corner there. Not a problem. So come up to the top, twist around, escape to get out of the tool, and we're going to go ahead and reference that corner right there. Okay, so showing what I did there, I forgot to show you that. So come off down to the right over here, and you can see it's usually on all, which basically allows you to select everything. You know, it tries to make a guess at what you want. But if we come down to the right and click edge, now I can only select the edges, which is pretty useful here because I actually won't need this edge here. And now we have our, here's our intersection for our circle. We click close, and we'll go ahead back normal to our sketch. Go ahead and create that circle. Now it should, yep, there we go. It pops right on the portion we want. Left click and drag that out. Put it about close to where you want it. Come off the side, center click once. Now it's prompting us for our diameter. The diameter of this is, it's actually given as a radius, but you just double that, so it's 5. Apparently today is the day of the 5, so I guess it shows everything is 5 for some reason here. Once we're happy with that, come up to the top right, click OK. So now you can see we're kind of extruding here, but this is actually not fully into the object. We want to actually contact the surface. There's different ways you can do that. We could, of course, just change the distance to something that would go through, like 3.5. That'll work. But the better way of doing this is actually what I told you before, which is top left. Click that down arrow and extrude to a surface. And choosing, I believe you should be able to choose both surfaces here. No, that's not working. Alright, we'll go ahead and, I guess that only works for one surface. We'll go ahead and instead of that, choose this one right here, which is going to extrude up to next surface. So, extrude up to next surface, it's just going to keep going until it hits something and then stop. This one, it would be a specific surface, but since we're kind of doing this on a corner, that's not really going to work very well. So, you can see now we have our feature, and we're happy with it. It's not going to give us a distance since we have selected that feature. It's arbitrary distance based on where the surface is. And click the check mark. So now you can see we're actually getting pretty close to the end of our part here. Now we have all these planes here. This kind of gets annoying. So if you'd like to hide those, come up here in this little toolbar thing. It's pretty useful. And just unselect all of those options. It'll be a little more clean, a little easier to see here. So let's go ahead. Before we do the shell, we need to put those edges in. If we were to shell it out first and then put the edges, the wall thickness actually would not be similar on all sides. It would actually kind of cut in around the edges, which you don't. So you cut in around the edges near the rounds, which are no good for us. So we'll go ahead and put the rounds on this part. There's two different types of rounds, so go ahead and click that round tool under Engineering. Let's go ahead and start with those vertical face rounds. So hold Control and just start clicking the edges here. We're going to click all the edges. We have 6 of them. Make sure to let go of Control as you're going between parts, otherwise you get that weird kind of rotation thing. Go ahead and change this to the appropriate diameter. Oh, excuse me, radius. This radius is going to be 0.15. There we go. And before we hit the check mark, let's go ahead and take care of the other one as well. So we create our one set. Now we're going to go ahead and create a second set. So without holding Control this time, we're going to go ahead and put that round on the circular cylinder. Click the edge once and change that radius to 0.2 and hit the check mark. It looks like that feature didn't work out very well. What I do find sometimes in Pro E, it's all about the order in which you click the radii. So let's go ahead and try to go back and, well, let's go ahead and delete this and try this again. We'll do this in 2 different features. Sometimes that works out better for Pro E. It's a very weird function. But go ahead and click around. Just round the edge by the cylinder first at 0.2, which it already has there. Go ahead and click the check mark to that. Now we should be able to get these corners. So we'll do these corners as a separate round. So you can see we have the first one in there. I'll create a separate round here. And again, we're going to click the corners. After we click the first one, let's just go ahead and make sure that's 0.15 this time. And hold Control as you click the other corners here. And the last one. So you see they're all orange, so they've, looks like I missed one here. Let's get this last one in here. There we go, they've all generated. So if I hit the check mark now, there we go, now I've got all corners. So I've run into this before with this program. You've got to be pretty careful. So last time I tried to create all this stuff together, it kind of generates all the rounds at the same time, and that wasn't really working. So what we ended up having to do here is create 2 separate rounds. Less ideal, but it was necessary to create the part. So if you're having that trouble when you try to do it the first time, make sure you try it this other way. If it works, sometimes it'll just randomly work. It's kind of weird. Then you can kind of see the difference there. Alright, moving along. So we have our rounds. Last thing we have here to do is shell out the feature. So this is, we can pretend this is like some kind of injection molded part or something. Some kind of like lens or lens cover, who knows. Alright, well, we'll go ahead and find that tool. It kind of gets confusing. Sometimes I don't see it. It's here under Engineering, but of course, to remind you, if you can't find that feature for one, or that option for one reason or another, you can come up here to the right, click Search, and actually just type the word shell. And you'll see it actually gives me the option under Commands. So when I highlight it, it shows me the locations. You can see it's model and shell, or just click it from Commands. So I'll X out of that and just show you can also just click the option itself right here. So now we're in shell. Thickness up here on the left. We're going to go ahead and set the thickness. We specified it as 0.2. So now we click 0.2, it's going to ask us for a reference. So the reference is basically the side from which it's going to shell. This is the side that's going to be open. That would be the bottom surface. So go ahead, I left clicked to accept that. You can also click enter alternatively. Go ahead and click that bottom surface. Now you see it's shelled out our part. Obviously, you probably want to make a nice round here in the future, but just for the purposes of this, once we're happy with what we see, we click the check mark. And you can see we've now created our part per the specifications in the drawing. Pretty useful. So that's the first part. Go ahead and Control S, save that part, make sure we save it. Pro E is very touchy sometimes with make sure to save things. We're going to go ahead and now switch over to the second part. The second part is kind of this weird abstract looking base, or maybe like a candle holder or something. Nonetheless, we'll go ahead and create it. So, sorry, went to the top left, create a new part, call that workshop. Bet you can guess what this one's called too. -2. And click OK. Hopefully you're finding this pretty useful. Here, what's going on there? There we go. It's kind of weird. Alright, how do we want to tackle this? This one we're going to be using a blend. So I guess now is a great opportunity to kind of explain what the difference is between sweep, blend, and a blend. First of all, they hid the blend option for one reason or another. I don't know why. You actually have to click down from shapes and find the word blend, which is kind of annoying. So we're going to start with a blend because I think that's kind of the easiest thing we can work with. And a blend, if you can look at the picture, basically means I'm going to have two sketches at a distance from each other. And they could be anything. They could be two squares, two rectangles, a triangle and a rectangle. Now it gets a little tricky when you have different number of sides. In this case, it's going to be a square and a circle. They're going to be at a distance from each other. When I select this blend option, I'm able to collect the two sketches and basically blend a shape between them. So it'll start as a square and it'll mold into a circle. Really cool to, you'll see this, really exciting to watch. And in addition, you have these other options as well, which I'll go through. You have a sweep. Sweep basically is where we're going to define a direction. So on a blend, it just goes between the two objects in whatever way it feels. In a sweep, we're going to define I guess the word could be a track for it to follow, and then we're going to define a specific sketch. Just using a sweep, that sketch has to be a certain shape. It will not change shape between the start and the end. And it'll sweep it along our curve. You'll see that later. And you have swept blend, which is basically the same thing, except it allows us to do what we do in a blend and have two different shapes at the beginning and the end. But what I've decided to do here is we're going to start with this object using just blends. Easiest thing we can do here. So let's go ahead and click the top plane. You can't see planes on there, so we want to go ahead and activate those planes again. Come up here to the center and select them on. You can see now it shows our plane there. Top plane. We'll go ahead. We're just going to sketch this time, no extrude. And we'll go normal to that plane. We're going to go ahead and sketch the bottom profile, which if we look at our sketch on the bottom left, it's 2.5 square. Go ahead, center square, like always. You could always, we'll just go ahead and, we'll keep with the center square. It's easier to work with. But you could have done this with the corner as well. Center is easy because it keeps everything along the axis. And since the top profile is a circle, I won't have to dimension away from the axis. It'll automatically generate, which is really nice. Grab that relationship again. This time I'll show you how to put it in case you forgot. So if you have some kind of weird shape like this, you want to go right or left and center click. And you want those to be equal to each other. Come up here to the constraints and click the equal button and just click the two surfaces. 1 and 2. And you can see now we've created that constraint where they're both equal to each other. Being equal is the same thing as being 90-degree perpendicular. So go ahead and change that distance. You have to center click a few times to get yourself out of the tool there. You saw you can click anything until it unclicked. Change that to 2.5. Alright, so now we have our sketch. We're going to go ahead and click the check mark. So create our first sketch there. Now, what we're going to do for the blend is we're going to define another sketch at a distance. Distance indicated by the sketch is 2 inches. So now we're going to go ahead, come up under datum, and create a plane. We're going to create that plane offset from our top plane. You can click it, or you can come over to the left and choose top plane. Both are exactly the same. It's going to offer us again how far we'd like to offset it. It's going in the wrong direction, so we're going to go ahead and translate that. We want 2, but we want it in the opposite direction, so we're going to type -2. So you can see now I have a second plane 2 inches above the first sketch. We're happy. Click OK. And we're going to go ahead and sketch on that plane we just created. It might have already been selected if you didn't click off to the side after you create it. And click sketch. And we're going to go normal to that surface. Now we're going to go ahead and create that circle. Click on the center and drag it out. Put it anywhere you want. Come off to the side, center click, and change that diameter. Now, I didn't give you the diameter directly, but you could probably figure it out by being a equilateral triangle, or excuse me, a right triangle with a side length of 2.5, that the diameter is also going to be 2.5. Yes, there's a little bit of algebra on this, sorry. And once we're happy with that, go ahead and click OK. And go ahead and let's hide all of those planes. So right up here in the tools, hide the planes. We can just see our shapes. And remove our shapes. And click blend. Alright, so now, do you remember what I told you originally about being very careful about blends with number of sides? Well, I'm going to show you why you need to be careful right now. So to create the blend, come up in the left sections. We're going to need to do something special here. It's asking for sketched sections. We'd like to click selected sections since we've already created the sections. We're going to click our first section, which is our bottom section. You'll see we've added it. Insert a section, and click the top section, which is our circle. Okay, now let's take a look at what we've got here. Let's go ahead and click the check mark, and it's going to fail to regenerate. Now this is to expect it here. Just click OK. Why that failed? Remember, we need the same number of sides on both objects for it to be created. So we had, so we're going to go back down to the left in our feature tree here. We see the little exclamation mark. Go ahead and right click on that. Click on the circle with a pencil. It's going to get us back into the options here. Click on sections. You'll see that we have 2 sections on the circle, but 4 sections on the square. So thus, it will not allow us to create this. It has to have the same number of sections. So let's go ahead and fix that. Go ahead and click the X. Do you want to cancel? Yes, we want to cancel. We're going to go ahead and just delete that feature there. So right click on the blend and delete. And click OK. Let's go ahead and we're going to go back in and modify this sketch we just created. So to do that, we're going to come over to our feature tree, locate sketch 2, right click, and come down to the right, and we'd like to edit the sketch. Go normal to the sketch. Alright, now I'm going to show you the trick here. The trick here is we want to make this circle into 4 arcs with corners that also align with the corners of the square. And you'll see why that's important later. So, to create this, we're going to use a center line. So under sketching, you find center line, click it once, you're going to come down and grab the origin, click, and actually here we're going to want to reference that corner, so we're going to have to get out of this. So center click once, let's go up to the top left and reference that corner. So let's click the 2 sides, and click close, and click center line again. And now you'll notice we can actually grab that corner. Well, I thought we'd be able to grab that corner. Let me check it. I didn't select them or something here. Let's see. Well, I have the 2 corners. I should have been able to select the corner there. That's kind of unusual. one more try, otherwise I have a second way you can do this. Alright, well there's two ways of doing this. I thought that would work, but we can actually just click anywhere, create that center line, and we can actually get prompted to change an angle here. So I just clicked anywhere to place it and change that to 45. You know, that works on the one at work. I guess must be something different here. But we're accomplishing the same operation by changing it to 45 degrees. Now we're going to go ahead and create a second center line and click the origin, wrap off. It'd be nice if you can click the corner. Actually, this time it's letting us click the corner because it's actually going normal to the first center line, which is nice. So click once, come up to the side, center click. Of course, I'm not going to remove this from the video. I'd like you to actually see the mistakes I'm making here. I feel like those will help you instead of just showing you a perfect video. So if you kind of try to do the same things, you'll understand kind of what your problems are here. Go ahead and just deactivate the Wi-Fi here, so keep getting these disruptions. That should take care of those. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to break this into 4 curves. We want this to be 1 here, 2, 3, and 4. Just to do that, you come up into editing. This is the same place we have that delete section option. This time we're going to use this divide option right here. Click divide, and we're going to take conveniently those intersections we've created. So 1, you don't have to hold control this time, so just click the 4 intersections, 3 and 4, come off to the left and center click. Now you'll notice, well, let's see, hopefully it's done it. It's hard to tell, but there's 1 there, there's 2, 3, and 4. It turns green, but you can't really see the color change. So I'll show you the difference now once we actually go and create the feature. Go ahead and click OK. Now we're going to go ahead and do what we did before, go to Shapes, and click Blend. If I'm going too fast, you can always pause and rewatch the video. Sections, we're going to make sure that we are selected sections. Now click the square, which is 4, insert, and click the circle. And now you'll see it actually created the feature and it shows 4. Here's where having the corners comes into play. You can see it kind of twists, you know, it tries to go for a different corner. If you wanted this to look just like our image there, what we do is you grab this little circle with the arrow on it, and we're just going to drag it to one of the other corners. So what I did was I dragged it, so to move it back, click it, and drag it. Of course, that's probably not going to let me drag it. Now that's in the right place. There it goes. So now that's where we were before. Left click, drag it to the other corner. Now it looks approximately like what we want. Go ahead and click the check mark, and there we go. There's our first part of the other thing we're trying to make here. Now we're going to go ahead and create the top. The top is going to be, we're going to go ahead and create this as another blend. There's other ways you could do this. You could probably do it as a revolve. But we're going to go ahead and practice the blend again, and we'll use the revolve to make the 2 cuts, so we get good experience with that. We're going to create another plane off of that top surface, and distance as per our drawing is going to be 1.5 this time. You can see it's going the incorrect direction, so if we type a negative 1.5, it'll switch the direction, and click OK. Now we're going to go ahead, come up here, sketch on that plane. Let's go tangent, and we're going to create another circle here. That circle is going to have a radius of 1.72. I don't know where I came with that number on this. Whatever. 1.72. And maybe like a 172, like a Cessna, right? Yeah, that's where I came with the number from. Now I'm going to give you a hint on this just because I don't want to have to go back and correct it. The first circle is broken into 4 sections. This is going to be 2 sections again. So unfortunately, we're going to have to go and click the center line tool, and we're going to have to create those sections. So click center line, center of the sketch, draw off to the side, center click once. Yeah, looks like we'll have to dimension this guy. Well, actually it's down there, but you can also click dimension from the center line and call it 45. And we'll go ahead, now we're going to put second center line, and that one's going to be tangent. It's hard to see there, we have to perpendicular relationship there. Center click. Yeah, so this is kind of why it's nice to have the different color, kind of make things stand out a little better. And we're going to divide this into 4 sections again. Remember, you don't have to hold control, just go ahead and click all of them. And 4. And once you have that, hit the check mark. Now we have our second feature there. And it doesn't look nice to me. Set the diameter wrong here. Oh, yeah, it's half of the... I was saying the diameter, but I was using the radius of the drawing. So just go ahead and change that. That's actually 1.72 times 2. That looks about right. There we go. So just to remind you how to do that, right-click and come up here. Now, I was actually using this edit here. It's a very similar thing. If you just click edit, then you can just change the dimension and click enter. And then just click off to the side when you're done. You could have also right-clicked, come up to edit feature, and you'll get this basically how you originally sketched it, and you could have changed it there. Same thing, accomplishes the same goal. Click OK. Now I've got our 2 features, and we'll go ahead and create our blend again. We're going to blend from the top surface to the, sorry, a few sections and change. I always forget this. You have to change it from sketched to selected. It's going to ask if you want to remove those. Yes. So now we're back in selected. Go ahead and click that circle. You can see 4, which is what we want. And click the second circle. You can see it's kind of weird here. It's twisted again, so we're going to have to untwist this thing. Move this thing around. It's kind of tricky sometimes. Must have been in the wrong other direction here. There we go. So just change it to the other direction. I fixed it up. Looks about right. Yeah, click check mark. And there we go. Alright, so now we've got 2 portions of this. We're going to do this as 2 separate revolve cuts. You can alternatively do this as 2 of them, but I'd like to do it twice to give you a little more practice in it. So, revolve cut, we're going to need an axis, and we're going to need a profile. And then we're going to revolve around that axis to create what we want. Now, I'm showing you a revolve cut, but a revolve feature to create materials exactly the same as a revolve cut. So I'm going to go ahead and let you practice that after the video. Try it on your own. So, we're going to go ahead and create an axis up here in the Datum tab. This time, we're actually going to choose the edge of this circle. So we could choose the top, and then we can offset from 2 sides, but that kind of gets a little complicated. So if we choose the edge, it's going to create the axis right at the center of that radius, which is exactly the center of the circle, which is where we want it. You can see it's a center here now. And click OK. Alright. It disappeared there. If you want to see it, you can unselect and see the planes. I don't really need to see it. It's not a big deal for me. We're going to go ahead and now create a sketch, and we're going to go ahead and sketch on the front plane here, and click sketch, and go and normal to that. Let's see what we want to start with. Alright, let's go ahead and start with the inside here. Now the way I drew it here, what I'm trying to get you to do is offset the bottom edge up a distance and then go off at 2 angles. Basically, show you what that looks like. We're going to use the offset tool. You haven't used this before, so this is the first time you're seeing it. Under sketch, you actually have a few different options here, and I'll go ahead and talk you through them real quick. Project. Project means I'll show what it looks like. Click project, and I click any one of these lines, say this line right here, click it once, come off to the side, and center click. You'll see now it actually shows up as a sketched line in my drawing. It's pretty useful if you have like some kind of complex geometry and you just want to reference it in your new part. The trick here, though, I believe it's going to pull. Yep, it pulled the edge there. So come up to the left and click references. That edge is a reference. So you won't be able to delete this because you have that line. We're going to go ahead and delete the line. So delete segment, delete it. We're going to use a second option, and that's the offset tool. Right above project by 2, offset right here. Click offset. And we're going to go ahead and offset that horizontal surface. Now it's going to ask us for a distance. You can see the arrow is pointing down, so I know that if I typed in a number, it's going to project it down by 0.3. But we're going to go ahead and type negative 0.3. That'll project it up, which is what we're looking for. And from here, we're going to go ahead and just come out. We're going to try and run parallel to this surface, since that's what the drawing is kind of looking like here. I didn't include all the dimensions needed to make this, so you can kind of use your imagination. But what we want to do in this purpose, I'd like to see a line that comes from here up off to the side to use to create our inner cavity. So what we're going to do is, obviously I draw that line, it's going to ask for an angle, it doesn't know what angle it comes at. Top left, let's go ahead and reference that top left corner here, that line. It's hard to see what I just did. Click on the edge here and click close. Now we're going to go ahead and, no, actually, we're going to need this top surface as well, so we'll go ahead and reference that too. We'll reference that top surface and get everything we need up front here. Click line, come off to the sketch, see we're grabbing the point, click and drag up to the side. You can see now we can move it along this line. It's going to grab the line on top. We want it to be parallel, because that's kind of what our drawing looks like there. Obviously you'd specify it if you need it that way, but we're going to do it this way. We want parallel. Click once, and now we're going to continue sketching off to the side. Now this is a revolve cut, so we're only going to sketch 1/2 of the profile we need to cut this out. So basically we're going to sketch the left half. So we're going to come to that center line right there, click once, and we're going to drag down to the bottom. So you'll see it says midpoint, that's where we want to come to the line. And off to the right, center click once, center click twice. Now we need only this portion. We did reference this whole line, so we got this extra piece here. To remove that, come to delete segment, go ahead and delete that part. There we go. And if you center click once, you can see now we have our closed section, all closed in, looks good. And click OK. So now you can see our sketch is halfway through the object on that plane. We're going to go ahead and revolve this. So to revolve, we're going to come up to the left and click the revolve button. And now it's going to ask us for our curve or sketch, which is sketch 4. It's going to ask us for the axis we'd like to revolve around. So we're going to click on select one item and click the axis right here that we've just created. And click the check mark. There you go. There's the inside. Let's go ahead now and create the cut on the outside. Similar process. We want that original plane we worked on, so we can go ahead and select that plane. It's right there, datum 3. Click sketch. Oh, excuse me, it's the wrong plane. Sorry, X out of that. It was the wrong plane we created that from. We want the plane for the revolve, which I believe should be in here. Let's see. Alright, well, we'll just go ahead and create that. Oh, right, we came off of the front plane for that, so there is no plane we created. So go ahead and create a plane on the front again. You want to go through. So this is going to basically put it in the same location as that first one. And click OK. Similar to before, go ahead and sketch on that plane and come normal to it. Like I said before, I'm not going to remove this from the video so you can kind of see what I'm doing here, and hopefully it'll help with your mistakes or whatever you run into. Reference the top edge and the corner, and let's take this little edge right here since we're going to need that for our sketch. Now if you look at the drawing, it says add curved shape using a spline of your choice. Use a revolve cut. So what we're going to do, and you can do this in any way you like, but we're going to go ahead and choose the spline tool right here. Click it once. We're going to want to grab this up top left corner, click once, drag over, approximately halfway through. This isn't exact since I didn't dimension this for you. Click again, and click one more time, but we're going to do that on this bottom edge now. So click one more time, and come off and center click. So again, what I did was spline, I clicked the top surface, clicked one point, which is going to be our our vertex, I guess you'd call it, if you're looking at this in math form, and then the bottom edge, and center click again, And you'll notice too, we can actually click that point and drag it, and that's going to change how this thing's going to look. So we'll go ahead and just give it a little bit of a curve there. Yeah, go ahead and finish off our section there by line, click the top corner, drag down to that bottom corner, center click. You'll see it turns orange, which means it's a closed feature, which means it'll work. Click OK. And we'll go ahead and revolve that guy. So, like before, click revolve. We have our feature selected already, so click our axis and hit the check mark. And that'll do it. There's your part per the specifications on the drawing. You can add, some kind of rounds or something on the side, whatever you want to see there. But there you have it. Alright, well, hopefully you're having fun. Hopefully you're keeping up with me. You can always go back and review things if you want. Now we're going to go ahead and cover the last two things, which are going to be the sweep, and the swept blend. So let's go ahead and create a new part. Call it workshop example 2. Keep this nice and neat for you guys. And as you can see, I'm kind of speeding up a little bit as we start going through the workshop. Once I build your confidence, I want to get you guys to start kind of moving along and start to pick things quickly so that you can make these drawings in a reasonable amount of time. So I'm going to show you real quick a sweep and a swept blend. So what we're going to do is just get a nice and close look to this. We're going to go ahead and sketch a line on the right plane. So go ahead and unhide the planes again. You'll see what I'm looking at. This thing, I don't know why it goes so far away, but whatever. Right plane, and sketch, and of course it won't go normal to it, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. Normal the plane, and what we're going to do is we're going to sketch a path we'd like the sweep to follow. So just to do something cool, we'll go ahead and click the spline up here, click that center point, drag out, just make some kind of ridiculous shape. Not unreasonable, but something cool. It comes around and goes around the back or something. Okay, gets close to the edge there. So some ridiculous shape. Once you're happy, click the center button. No science to this, just kind of create any spline. Center button again. Or just go ahead and leave it as it is here. I can see our dimensions are kind of large here, so we'll have to make sure our feature is pretty large as well. Click the OK button. Now I've got some kind of ridiculous curve. This obviously could be something more reasonable, like it could be like where it spirals in or something. You could shape this however you want. We'll go ahead, regardless, and click the sweep button here. So with this one's a little different. We'll go to references. It's actually already referenced it for us, but if it wasn't referenced already, you'd have to select the line as our reference. You can see it's called a trajectory. And we're going to go ahead up to the left to the sketch tool. And once we click that, it'll allow us to sketch. It should be selecting one of these edges here. You see it's this one here. So we'll just go ahead and go normal to sketch. And draw something. It could be anything. What I did notice with this, you do need to have the feature as part of it. So basically, I noticed before if you hit corner and you were to sketch on the there it goes. There's the origin right there of the plane, and you clicked it once and you dragged off to the side like this, it wouldn't actually work. So you're going to have to try and use the center rectangle, grab that center point, drag up, create something, and make this tall looking rectangle, center click. Now you can see we've sketched the feature along the edge of the curve. Once you're happy with what it looks like, you click OK. And it should be able to go along the curve. We might have made this a little too complicated of a curve here. I think I'm getting a little excited. Let's go ahead and just delete the sweep and simplify that curve a little bit. Again, showing you how to go back and modify curves. Right click, come over, edit. I'll go ahead and delete this. I guess I was getting a little ambitious. Yeah, go normal again. And I guess we'll try something just a little simpler here. I'll try just a simple curve. So make sure you get yourself back here. All I did was right-clicked on the feature, sketched, the sketch feature, edit. I delete everything using the delete segment tool, create a new sketch here, and click OK. Go ahead and give you a moment to get there. Alright, let's try this again. Create a sweep. We have the curve selected. We're going to go ahead and sketch. We go normal to the point. So sketch normal to the point and create that rectangular feature. Hopefully this time it'll work. There we go. Click OK. And there you go. We've got our feature. Curly once again to that ridiculous kind of curve stuff. It doesn't like it sometimes. So you got to be a little careful, a little more selective of how you do things. And in reality, you would never do anything like I was doing before. So hit the check mark. Now you've got your feature there. So that's a sweep. We're going to go ahead and show you a swept blend. It's very similar, and I'm actually going to use that same curve we already have to show it to you. So what we're going to do is come off to the left here and delete that sweep that we created. Yes, we'd like to delete it, and you can see we still have our curve there. Now we'll go ahead and click the swept blend button. It's in our references. We're going to have to reference that trajectory, so it went references, select items, click the trajectory. Now we're going to go over to the next tab, the sections tab, and we're going to have to sketch two sections. Now this time you notice it actually is going to give us all these options. So the first section is you can see here, the start point. Looks like that's going to be this point right here since it's green. So we'll go ahead and sketch on that start point. Go ahead and go normal as always. Now, you could do the thing before with the circle and the square. It's the same idea. You have the same number of corners, but for time's sake, we're just going to make this a vertical rectangle. Come off to the side, center click. This is all kind of arbitrary shapes here. Excuse me, arbitrary shapes. So just kind of do whatever you want. I'm just trying to show you how the feature works. We're going to go back. Actually, now we're having a sketch. Click OK. Now we have our start. We're going to need to add a finish. So now we're going to go here and click Insert. And now you can see it's automatically selected End. If we were to have planes along this, we could actually select each individual plane to create the sketch. That's more complicated. I'll let you guys figure that out on your own. For the case of this one, I'm just going to say a simple two-shape swept blend. We have our second section, and click Sketch. Let's go normal to that other one. You can see now it's this over here, and we're going to go create that center rectangle, but now we're going to go ahead and create it horizontally. So it's going to be two different shapes. There we go. Looks about right there. Looks good to me. It's going to be some kind of weird shapes. It's going to go from vertical to horizontal, and it's going to grow in size. That'll look pretty interesting. Click OK. And here's this weird looking object we just created here. So that's how you do it. You could obviously go and add more sketches so you can kind of transform from a square to a circle to an octagon, whatever you want. But keep in mind you've got to add the same number of sections here for each part, so it kind of gets a little confusing. So once we're happy, go ahead and click the check mark. So there we go. Now you've got your feature there. You can unselect all the planes to see it. It's kind of weird over here. It's kind of bunched up, so you probably wouldn't want to do this in real life, but it shows kind of what you can do with it. If you look up videos online, you can make things like a stove top, like the metal stove tops. You can do that using the same feature. Also, under shapes, if you click down, in addition to blend, you have rotational blend. You can guess what that's going to do. It's going to do a blend around an axis. And under sweep, you have this other one called helical sweep. With this, you would create an axis and you would create your profile, and it would rotate around while increasing in height. It has all the options in there. I'll let you try that. I don't want to give you everything here. I just want you guys to make sure you're exploring the software and doing this on your own. The video only does so well, so having you actually look through it and understand everything is really important. So let's go ahead and have you try the helical sweep. The idea behind this is you can make things like a spring if you wanted to. So that about covers everything I want to show you today. So we created our sweep, and our sweat blend. Here's an example of the blend, extrudes, and here's the basic part. All of those will be online for you. If you have any questions at all, feel free to go to the internet, which I have conveniently deactivated, which is kind of annoying. Go to the internet, go to AIAA UCF.com. You can find my email. I'm Justin Canner, currently the president. If not, just email the default email address on there, the AIAA. I believe it's ucf.aia@gmail.com, and they can answer any of your questions about this. So hopefully you enjoyed this presentation, and look forward to seeing the next one. Next one will be working with assemblies. That's going to be an interesting one. I have a cool kind of, I guess you call it a nut and plate setup. You'll see in the next one. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.